right, welcome back, everyone. Time to continue our conversation about college basketball and the happenings Tuesday night in Auburn at Neville Arena and what lies ahead for the Auburn Tigers. Joining us on the line, former Auburn assistant Chad Prewett. Kevin Fickner is still with us as well. Chad, it's great to see you and great to have you on with us.
What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Appreciate you having me.
Doing well. Tell me a little bit about what you saw Tuesday night, the end of the Texas A&M game at Neville Arena. That was a bizarre scene. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like that in college basketball.
It's crazy. And I don't know. Obviously, a lot happened in the last, 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, whatever it was. But I think if you go back to the very end, I don't know how they were able to overturn that. There was not enough indisputable evidence to overturn that call. Whether it was out of his hand or in his hand, I don't know. But I mean, it was so close, nobody can tell. So therefore, you should stay with the ruling on the court, which with the basket was good. So, I hate it for Auburn and my guys. I hate it for Keyshawn Murphy, who I'm super close to and made, the shot of his life, of his career. And to see it taken away really hurt. Now, I'm sure if you ask Coach Pearl, Stephen would say, hey, we should have not been in that position as we had a complete control of that game at one point and kind of let it slip away. And, you also got to give credit to Bucky and the Texas A&M Aggies to come in there and play that well on the road. Neville Arena is impossible to win at. I mean, you go back and look at the last several years, you don't win at Neville. And so you got to give them credit. But, man, I hate to see you take it away from Keyshawn Murphy and the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, and Keyshawn, probably the last guy that had drawn up on the play chart over there, right? Going out of the huddle. He had to be the most surprised guy in the world to get the basketball.
Yeah, I was surprised looking at it. As a coach, you're always, I can't just watch it as a fan. I'm sitting there analyzing the whole thing. And I saw that they were way off Keyshawn and probably protecting the rim and being a little closer to shooters. And so, yeah, he caught it, turned around and shot it with nobody even close. And I bet you Bucky, and I didn't really listen to any of the press conference. I bet Bucky would want to have somebody a little closer to him if he had to redo that as well.
He would now, I'm sure,
Yeah, for
after
sure.
what happened. But
Hindsight's always 2020. We talk about those guys who sit up in the stands, spectators, and have great ideas after the fact. But man, coaching's tough, man. It happens really fast. I got a bunch of buddies who are head coaches in college football and other stages of football. And I say, man, you guys get a chance for 30 seconds to figure out what you're going to do next. Basketball is up and down and we're making split second decisions and it happens so fast. And it was another great game at Neville. Wish we could have pulled it out.
Chad, we were talking a little bit earlier about you staying in touch with the team, and you said you visit with Coach Pearl a little bit every week, but you don't watch every single minute of every game. You resigned or retired last spring after the Final Four season. How much do you miss coaching? You've coached for a long time. You had a bunch of high school rings as well. How much do you miss it? Do you miss the day-to-day operation?
I get asked that question a lot. I miss the 40 minutes when we're playing. That's when I really miss it. And then more than anything else, I miss the relationships. When you spend 10, 12, 15 hours a day with your coaching staff, you become like brothers. And so those guys are like, family to me. And I stay in touch with all of them and, just trying to be an encouragement and, any help I might can give and any day-to-day operations decisions. I'm always here. And, Coach Pearl took a chance on a high school coach. I'd been in high school for 19 years, and BP took a chance on me. And man, Auburn's always been home for me. I love it. I love the orange and blue. And man, I hurt with those guys last night when that shot was taken off. I felt the pain. I know how hard they work. Okay. And I know how good a coaching staff that is. That is a great coaching staff. A lot of experience, a lot of guys who's been with us through all the ups and downs of the last several years. They know how to win. That will sting. The loss at Georgia will sting, but I know this coaching staff well. They'll rebound really well and have these guys ready to go the rest of the year.
Yeah. What I see, Chad, when I watch this team play the last couple of games or three games, you mentioned your relationship with Murph, but it seems to me like they're searching a little bit for leadership. college basketball is in such a weird place where most teams don't have a lot of players returning every year, so it's kind of hard to get that chemistry. But it seems to me like they're searching a little bit for somebody to take the lead and take this team to where they need to be. What do you think?
Well, think about, in 2019, we go to the Final Four with a senior league laden team, a team with a ton of experience, a ton of guys we developed. We had for several years with, Jared Harper and Bryce Brown and Anthony McLemore, Austin Wiley, all those guys. Horace Spencer, we had those guys and we had them for a while, and we were able to develop a lot of chemistry. You look back at last year. What do we have? Older guys that had developed a lot of chemistry. So this year with 10 new guys, we knew would be tough. It didn't matter who was coaching. You're going to have a hard time with 10 new guys. And I think what you'll find out over the course of the season is if, and we don't know this yet, but if our guys will be resilient, determined, and go back to work every single game and learn how to put those things behind them quickly, this is a team who's talented enough to make a run. And you have the coaching staff that's talented enough to help them make a run. And so, you're going to find out a lot about our team, and you're going to find out a lot about our guys here coming up. And, but going back to what you said, the experience is what makes all the difference. So, yeah, of course, they're searching. Why they're searching, they haven't been there before. And if you had a bunch of guys who've been there, then they point to the guy who's been there and say, okay, let's go. But they haven't yet. And so that will continue to develop. I think anytime you play a schedule like Auburn played early, it can go in a couple of different ways. It can help you with experience. It also can rob you a little bit of confidence if you're not careful. It's a fine line, and the margin's super thin on that. But I expect this team to rebound. I expect them to be more motivated than ever Saturday versus the Hogs.
And it looks like nobody really is way out in front in the SEC. It looks like a bunch of teams clogged up in the middle. Visiting with Chad Prewett, former Auburn basketball assistant. And Kevin, I know you got some questions.
Chad, tell us what you've been doing since you left, since you've resigned and since you've moved on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a tough decision. I've been coaching for 30 years. Again, those guys are like brothers to me, the Auburn coaching staff. And so it was a really tough decision for me to step away. But I really felt like, my wife and I have a ministry called Unite Us, and where we take the gospel across the country to different college campuses. And it was really, really exploding, and just felt like I needed to be there a little bit more with Tanya during this time, and then just see what else other opportunities that God has for me at this time. I'm doing a lot of speaking. I'm helping with another ministry called Nations of Coaches that puts chaplains across the country into basketball college campus basketball programs. And Jeremy Napier is one of on our staff, our chaplain, our character coach is from Nations of Coaches. And so it's allowed me to stay in the game. I've actually seen probably 10 or 11 games live across the country with buddies of mine that coach in other areas. And so I haven't watched Auburn every second of every game, but I've seen a ton of college basketball. So I've stayed really busy. And man, but as always, it's good to be. I'm actually still in Auburn now. Our family, I got three girls that are all live in the Nashville area. And so probably just a matter of time before we move a little further north.
Do you see yourself getting back into coaching 5, 7 years from now, or do you think you're going to continue this ministry and let it ride?
I hadn't ruled it out, Kevin. Thanks for asking that question because I get it a lot. I haven't ruled it out. I mean, when you're a coach, it's kind of in you. You
Yeah.
can't get away from it. I mean, again, as I've mentioned earlier, I can't even watch a game without dissecting, what everybody's doing. And so it's in me. I enjoyed it. I had a very successful career, not only at the high school level, but as you know, we were really successful at Auburn. When you think about this, guys, what this staff accomplished, two Final Fours in the last 6 years to a program that had never been to the Final Four. In fact, in 2019, nobody from the state of Alabama had ever been to the Final Four. And so to be a part of history, come back, last year and have that incredible year, uh, I got an opportunity to walk out on top. And how many guys do you know have the opportunity to do that? Not very many. Most everybody ends up honestly getting fired in this business, unfortunately. So I had a great opportunity to walk away at the top, and we'll see what God has in the future. I'm looking forward to whatever it is.
Was the transfer portal? I know everybody talks about that now. Was that a factor in your decision to get out of college basketball?
Well, look, I don't like the transfer portal and NIL the way it is, but no, that wasn't a decision, enough to make me want to step away. Look, it's a mess. Let's be honest. The way it is right now, and honestly, you used to be able to finish the season and get ready for summer camps and do a little recruiting and ease into it. And now, think about this past year. We were in the Final Four or in the Elite Eight, getting ready to go to the Final Four, and we were recruiting at the same time. We're on Zooms at the same time, because the transfer portal was open. They got to fix it. It's broke. And so we got to figure out a way to be able to take care of everybody at every level, regardless of how far they go in the tournament.
What do you think about? We talked a little bit about the SEC, Chad, but what do you see this year? I think it's a lot of teams that are pretty close, and it's going to be a matter of who wins those close games. And Auburn has probably another one coming up this weekend against John Calipari in Arkansas.
Yeah, I think the teams in the SEC are not quite as good as they were last year. The depth is not as good, but it's still really good. I mean,
Mhm.
you're going to have 8, 9, 10 teams probably get into the tournament. But I don't see a huge difference between the teams at the top and the teams at the bottom, or will be at the top or the bottom coming up. I think the margin, I say this all the time, the margin is super, super slim between. Look at Auburn in the last two games. Could be 2-0. They're 0-2. Could be 1-1. And so the margin is so slim between victory and defeat. And this team is just going to have to keep, man. You got to keep chopping wood, man. You just got to keep coming back, because you just never know the difference between, let's just say, a fourth place finish or a seventh or eighth or ninth place finish. I mean, because what happens is those teams end up all together at the end of the year, except for one or two teams that'll probably separate themselves from the pack. So, look, tough loss on Tuesday night, but you got to put your hard hat back on and go to work and get ready to try to get one at home against the Hogs on Saturday.
I think Saturday night will be the first real Neville Arena experience for the season because we had the preseason games where it wasn't sold. It was sold out, but a lot of empty seats. Even last night, there were empty seats. I think Saturday, 5 o'clock, no one has school, no one has work the next day. It's going to give you that first true Neville experience of the season. And for these guys that haven't really witnessed it, the new guys here, and hopefully that can carry us, against Arkansas on Saturday.
There's no doubt. And let me tell you, Neville Arena, when it's hopping, it's best in college basketball. And I've been all over the place. I've seen it all. And so we will meet the test. I'm telling you, our guys will be ready. Neville Arena will be hopping. It'll be a tough environment for Arkansas to come into on Saturday. And so look, we back to work, back to work.
Yeah. Visiting with Chad Prewett, former Auburn basketball assistant. And Chad, a couple more minutes we got you here for. I know Stephen mentioned after the Georgia game, Philip Jovich, as a guy who he thought had a really good game and maybe had some upside that could help this team, maybe some leadership. Who do you see that can really step out and has that upside for this SEC basketball season? The guys that can get a lot better this year.
Yeah, I love Elijah Freeman and I love Sebastian. I really do. I think, and when you look at the upside of those two guys, I could see them being future pros. I like what they bring to the table. Again, you're talking about two guys with not a lot of experience, and so they don't even really know how good they are yet, honestly. But I like their bodies. I mean, look, Elijah Freeman's going to end up, carrying another 10 or 15 pounds at some point, and just going to be a beast. And man, Sebastian already has an unbelievable body. Both great kids from what when I've been around them, I've been able to tell. They're hard workers. And so those two guys, I think, again, they're young. And so what happens with young guys is the confidence seems to it's like a roller coaster. So it can be up and down. And we need to get those guys kind of locked in. And they need to see a few go through the basket, through the hoop, and continue to play with unbelievable effort and energy. But those are two guys that kind of stick out to me. Obviously, I think Keyshawn Hall is one of the best players in the country. He basically last night brought that team back. If you look at the last couple of minutes, the way he just took over and just wouldn't be denied. So he's a guy, I'm telling you, I've been telling people all along, there's enough talent on this team, especially with Keyshawn and Tahad Pettiford, that could honestly at times probably put the team on their back. and they're going to win some games. I'm telling you, they're going to win some games they probably are not going to be favored in. But I like the talent of this team. Obviously, the thing that we all know is going to be tough for us is the size, the overall size that we're seeing. If you look at some of those teams that beat us early in the year, those teams were bigger, much bigger than we were, and took a toll on us. But I think there's enough talent here to really get going, and I think you're going to see it happen pretty quickly.
What do you think happened when we were up 16 Tuesday night at Neville Arena? Stephen mentioned fatigue was a factor maybe in the style that Texas A&M plays and the guys that we have injured. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I was a coach in high school where I played, it was 84 feet then. I mean, we tried to guard you as we got off the bus. And what you try to do, you play a bunch of bodies, you try to pick you up early, and you're just hoping for, and we used to talk about it all the time. We're 1-10-0 run away from winning the game. That's what I used to always tell my teams in high school. And honestly, that's what you saw last night. You saw, I won't say Auburn dominated. I mean, I think Texas A&M early played well. Auburn came back and started playing really well. But if you take that just a 2, 3, 4 minute, clip away, Auburn played really well last night. But that's what pressure does, I think. And look, Bruce Pearl, who was as good as anybody in the country over all these years with pressure, that's what we always look for. We look for an opportunity. So yes, I think fatigue had a big part of it. It's also, you're playing. I don't know how many guys Auburn played. I didn't look at the stats, but I know Texas A&M rotated a bunch of guys in there. And Steven would like to play more. I think there's been some injuries, some other things that's kept him from doing those things. But that's what pressure teams are looking for. And so yeah, there was several things that kind of went. And then they made. Let's be honest, they made 3 or 4 unbelievable tough threes as well. In
Yeah,
fact, the one in the last minute that kid made, man, what a shot!
about 40
But look,
feet or something.
Yeah,
but when
deep.
the shots start going in, the hoop looks massive, and that's
Yeah.
what happened. If you look in that run, shots they didn't make all game, they went on a run. Again, you got to give those guys credit. You can't. We can't sit here a day or two after, and talk about just the officiating. We got to give Bucky and those guys credit for coming into a tougher environment at Neville and winning that game. And that game was won in that little 2 or 3 minute stretch.
You mentioned Coach Pearl. I know you talked to him some also. Does he have any nails left after these last two games?
Probably not. Probably not. It's so hard to watch when you're not in it. And people used to always say, man, y'all are killing me up here. I'm sitting in section 102 and just watching y'all for years. They would say that, and I didn't really understand what they were talking about. But when you have no control, you don't have a ton of control when you're as a coach anyways. It still comes down to the players, but when you're sitting up in the stands or you're watching by TV, those are tough. Man, I was nervous as anybody last night in the last 2 minutes, honestly. And so I know BP, I know how he is. He definitely was feeling the same way.
Yeah. Kevin, anything last?
I, I think Coach nailed it. I mean, Chad, it's different. I'm a fan perspective. I'm the one in the stands. You've been there, and like you said, you look at other things that our eyes don't see. Yeah, we're all coaches from the stands, but you know what's going on in that huddle when there's zero point 0.6 seconds left and someone's got to draw up a play. I mean, you've really explained it really well and gone into detail and told what it's like to be on that side of the game. The game that we never get to see is, yeah, we can, oh, we should have done this, should have done that. Wish Auburn could have done that, but you're explaining it. You've witnessed it. You've gone through it.
Well, I always say, nobody wants to win more than those players and the staff. So when I hear people being critical, like, guys, you got no idea. There's nobody works any harder in America than this coaching staff. I can promise you. None of them go to sleep last night or Wednesday night. None of them. Those guys are going to make sure that they do everything they possibly can do to be prepared for this next game. And so somebody asked me just a few days ago, how do you feel now that you've been out of it, and what it was like to be a coach? And I said, the highs were really high. I mean, I think about going into Tuscaloosa and beating Alabama. I think about beating Michigan State and going to the Final Four. But I also remember some of those last second daggers that happened to us over the course of the year. And when you're a coach and you spend, look, I had a game scout. So basically, one out of every 3 games, I was game planning for the team. And so that means 10 or 11 games a year. I was responsible for putting that game plan together. And when that thing didn't play out the way you wanted to, man, you couldn't sleep, you couldn't eat. It just absolutely just destroyed you. So, you know, for people to be just really critical during those times, you just don't understand the work that goes into it on those guys. And they're trying as hard as they can, and they're trying to put those guys in the best position possible. And last night we ran into a tough team who came ready to play.
Yeah. Well, hopefully good things on the horizon for Auburn, Arkansas, again Saturday afternoon. And Coach Pruitt, appreciate you being with us. And tell people, if you want to, how they can get in touch with you or your mission and get involved in that.
Yeah, thank you, Doug, for saying that. Our ministry is called Unite Us, and it is uniteusmovement.com. We have now been on 24 different college campuses in the last 2 years and seen over 25,000 young people come to Christ during that time. And so it's been a really, really cool opportunity for us to be on those college campuses. We'll have a full year this year. 7 events, I believe, in the spring, and probably another 7 or 8 in the fall. So Coach Pruitt will be extremely busy. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys, and War Eagle.